Hello, and welcome to Shakespeare Reviews. Today we're talking about Love's Labour's Lost, a motion picture from the year 2000, written by, directed by, and starring Kenneth Branagh, along with Alicia Silverstone, Nathan Lane, and a host of fantastic players. It's a musical comedy set in the Shakespearean world, in a Navarre and France, in the years and moments immediately presaging World War II. It was not a financial success and actually ended a three-picture deal Branagh had with Miramax, which, all things considered, was probably a good thing. But we're here to talk about it. I am your friendly neighbourhood Shakespeare. To discuss this with me is the Irish Bard, Andrew McKee. Andrew, what did you think of the musical rendition of Love's Labour's Lost featuring the Great American Songbook?
Wow, okay, you want to sum this up in a few words? Well,
yes.
First of all,
Hashtag it's not great.
I know, right? Love's Labour's Lost. I mean, I think the most interesting thing about it is the alliteration and tongue twister part of the title.
Yes.
Because I'm going to sum it up this way to start out with. I see what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate what they were trying to do.
Yes.
They didn't get the job done. I mean, I mean, you look at other films that are kind of like that, where they try to put a lot more music into the play, like the Romeo and Juliet from with Claire Danes and
the Baz Luhrmann version.
Yes. I mean, of course, they didn't sing in this, but they did use music and put that together. And, you know, what they were trying to do was kind of a similar type of, somewhat conceptually the same. And I think they succeeded a lot better than this did. There were a lot of flaws in the rationale. I mean, the problem I have is that I can almost imagine myself in the pitch meeting when it first happened and what they must have been talking about. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Love's Labour's Lost. This play, it's not the best. It's not the best play. Let's just say that. It's not the best.
Well, it's
so I'm paraphrasing your catchphrase, sorry.
It's supposed to be, and I appreciate that, it's supposed to be one half of a two-parter. The second half we do not have is being lost to history.
So what he did was Kenneth Branagh decided to take out, 2/3, 3/4 of the dialogue and just rip that out and make it. They decided to go full Hobbit on this and say, okay, we're going to make this the first movie, like just like a small percentage of it, and if it does well, maybe we can do a sequel. And then if that does well, we've got enough words left to throw in a third and a fourth, because they took out so much of the film, and and then they said, listen. It's not the best play, so what are we going to do? We're going to take out most of the dialogue, and we're going to put in old musical songs that everybody knows. So we're going to get that in there, and then we're going to get some famous people, Alicia Silverstone, get her in there, and Matthew Lillard, and some people that, from Scream and Clueless and all that. Oh, all the kids love them. We're going to put them in there, and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is High School Musical before I knew what High School Musical was. And everybody's going to go crazy with that, and they're going to love it. And I'm in the pitch meeting thinking, oh my God, this might actually work. And I can imagine myself thinking that.
Yeah.
But then somehow it got lost, and they said, but we're going to have about the same budget as we had, 10 years ago from Much Ado About Nothing, except we're going to have to train everybody to sing and dance because most of them don't know how to do it. So, and we're going to spend 3 weeks doing it because that's all the time we have or need, especially with that budget.
You can see Matthew Lillard counting his steps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much about this, and I'm going to just kind of be all over the place with mine. I'm not going to go in a linear fashion.
They were, so why can't you?
Touché, sir! Touché! To the man in Austin, Texas. Oh, goodness. All right. So things that they were doing were clever, such as the tap dancing to iambic pentameter at the very beginning.
That was actually pretty good. I like that, the concept.
Is clever. Arguably a terrible idea, because if you're going to be talking like this the entire time that you have a conversation, that is a bad idea. Doing that throughout, peppered throughout, and also with a little bit more rhythm, not a terrible idea, especially if you're treating it as a song and dance musical.
It has an element of novelty.
The 3 weeks of dance training and singing training that people were getting is not enough. You can see Matthew Lillard focusing on the beat, focusing on the numbers, instead of just existing in the moment.
Yeah.
And I can see, as you said, with the pitch, that's a fun idea. Let's do this. I can see why they went with a musical route with Shakespeare, because in musical theatre, when it is properly done, we sing because we can no longer adequately express the innermost workings of our heart and soul through spoken word alone. In Shakespeare, you give a speech, you give a monologue, you give a soliloquy for the exact same reasons, because I can no longer adequately express the innermost workings of my heart and soul through standard dialogue. It has to be a direct address to the audience. And so you remove a lot of those and you put in musicals, and theoretically it could work. Except that in this case, oh my God, nearly everything about this was wrong. People were miscast. People were too old for their roles. Branagh is too old to be Baron.
Just a bit.
Especially since everybody else is supposed to be kind of college age. Matthew Lillard is too old. Alicia Silverstone around the right age.
Maybe on the high end, but okay.
Yeah, but
she still looks young, so she could do it.
But also, she's the Princess of France.
Yeah.
We're not even doing the standard thing of, I'm going to use an English accent because English is just everybody. No. She's Alicia Silverstone from California.
She did try to use some sort of like a cutish accent. I don't know how to put it. It was like it was different. I'll give her that. She did.
It sounded like her attempt at a mid-Atlantic accent from the 1930s.
Okay.
That you would hear in a fast talk. That you would hear in a fast-talking 30s musical comedy romp. Oh my goodness! Look over here. Take that, Mr. Hitler. That is how she
and she did do a sort of pouty aspect to some of her dialogue that I was kind of like, okay, at least she tried. I'll give her that.
Her acting was fine. And
yes, I will say I totally agree with that. I was surprised by that. I was actually surprised by. I wasn't expecting her to be that good. No offense to her.
No, and that is totally fine. The woman playing opposite Branagh, and who's I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Natasha McElhone?
Thank you very much. She held her own admirably with him.
She did a very good job. I was
impressed with her. She lit the screen on fire, except for the fact that she's 15 years too young.
Granted.
Excuse me, we're going to pause right here. I'm going to cough.
I don't know why. I had the urge to turn my head when you did that.
I coughed. Okay.
You turn my
She's
head.
15 Okay. The woman who played opposite Branagh, her name is escaping me.
Natasha McElhone.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
She held her own admirably. She went toe-to-toe with him. Only problem is, again, miscast. Either she's too young or he's too old. More off, he is too old for the part. He should not have been that character. Maybe he should have been the representative from Spain, or in the Nathan Lane role. Nathan Lane, by the way, one of the only parts of the movie that didn't annoy me, except the fact that he didn't match the rest of the film.
Granted, he was very. It was like he was trying to carry the film on his shoulders, but the rest of the film didn't know he was trying to carry them, so they went off elsewhere.
Yeah,
it was
he's
really
your
weird.
Clown.
Yeah.
And also one of your only actual legit song and dance people.
Yes.
And he's
you could make a case for Adrian Lester. He too had some experience with that, but that was it. You're right. Yeah. Those are the only two.
Yeah. But Oh, dear sweet baby Yoda. So this movie came on my radar in the early 2000s. On DVD.
How did you hear about this? Because it was such little play in the U.S. I think 20 theaters or something, was it?
20
screens?
20 theaters and Kenneth Branagh's basement. I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
that's who saw it.
I mean, it got a much wider view in England, but it actually made more money on. It's like 180 screens in England, but only 20 screens in the U.S. and it made more money in the U.S.
Because England.
I mean, wow.
England said Branagh sold off. No.
Yeah, right? I mean, yeah.
This came on my radar in 2005, maybe.
Okay, so after it came out. I thought it might have been when. Okay, I was wondering.
Oh, no. I had not heard of it. It was handed to me by a friend who said, this is a different version. Think you might like it. All right.
And the first film version of Love's Labour's Lost, too. I mean, I think the only one, right?
I think it's actually one of two. I think there is another one.
Okay, well, the first one, anyway.
Yeah. And so this is handed to me. Check it out. It's a bit different. And I'm reading reviews of it online. I'm like, oh, do I really want to? Oh my God, this sounds terrible. It sounds like a terrible idea. And I watch it, and I think I liked it in spite of the reviews. Not because of what it was. Okay. And so, full disclosure, audience at home, I suggested this film to Andrew, and I said, there's a musical version of Love's Labour's Lost. Let's watch it. And he says, what? No, that sounds like a terrible idea. And I said, I know, but you're going to love it. And I'm afraid to say that Andrew probably did not love it, especially because I am standing here as the one who suggested the film and not saying, oh, this is going to be great and wonderful. Oh my gosh, let us watch this. Or even, watch this film because it's going to be terrific crap and we can make fun of it for 5 hours. No, I thought it was going to be wonderful and magic and people were going to be singing my praises for suggesting that we watch this picture. And guys, gals and non-binary gingerbread pals, I am so very sorry for having suggested this picture in the first place. This is not good. Now, what this is a big swing. He took a big swing. He tried something that no one else had ever done. And there's probably a really good reason for that.
He tried several things that nobody else had ever done. Really.
But, oh, goodness gracious. Hashtag it's not great.
But, I mean, to be fair, okay, let's be fair about this.
Hashtag to be fair.
Because, I mean, Love's Labour's Lost. I mean, in the whole list of Shakespeare plays, where would you rate that as far as popularity and quality?
Popularity, reasonably low, because not that many people know about it.
Okay. What about quality, then?
Quality, I'll put it kind of middling, honestly.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because it is an unfinished play.
Okay, so you're being fair.
It is part one of a two-parter. There's Love's Labour's Lost, and then Love's Labour's Won. And at the end of Love's Labour's Lost, there are the promises made. We are going to come back together. We are going to come and be married. Everything is going to be coming up Millhouse. And we don't
get that. So it's the Empire Strikes Back of Shakespeare plays where, you're left hanging.
Yes, very much so. And the end of the play, how it ends, is abrupt and sudden. And thus I understand why my favorite musical sequence in the movie was actually used. They can't take that away from me.
Right.
I thought they did that really well, of treating it of the boys going off to war and the girls going off and becoming wax and Women's Army Corps, by the way, for those of you playing at home. And I thought that sequence worked the best out of most of the musical numbers. There's so much that's wrong with this. There are some good parts, and we can talk about those now for the second half of the show, because we're 15 minutes in, and I have yelled about it for 11 and a half of it.
Well, I mean, I think what we're saying here is that there is a lot lacking with the play.
Yeah.
So in order to do something to make it work, especially in a movie form with a modern audience, I mean, you have to take some crazy swings to try to pull that off. And I do really appreciate that all of the actors did their own singing. I mean, they
Yes.
didn't cheat at all with that. They did their own dancing. They didn't cheat at all with that. I respect that. I mean, if the dancing isn't phenomenal, hey, it's them. So I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. Now, normally with musicals, the trick that they would do in Hollywood over the last 70 plus years, actually, oh God, I'm getting way off. Last 90 plus years, keep forgetting what year it is. So you have to, what you do is you get some great, phenomenal, professional dancers in there. I like 20, 30, whatever, a large group of dancers that are phenomenally great. And then they get the star, who's maybe an okay dancer, out, and you teach them just enough to look competent, and then everybody else makes them look good.
Yes.
And that's how you do it. They had none of that here. They did not do any of that. And some of the editing of the dancing scenes, oh my God, what the hell were they thinking? I mean, do you know who the cinematographer was for this film?
I can find it.
It's Alex Thompson.
Oh,
I can
right.
tell you because he's a cinematographer for Excalibur. He's a cinematographer for Legend. He's the cinematographer for Labyrinth. And then I think how he got this film is he was the cinematographer for Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. So, I mean, this is not a bad cinematographer. So this was also like one of the last films he did. And I think it's a really good rule of thumb for Hollywood that a cinematographer's last film is not his best by far. Those are not the high points. Usually he's brought in because of his name, because of his experience. You know, he's phoning it in until he retires, and usually he's helping the director learn cinematography, and they're actually calling a good bit of the shots. And I like to hope that's what happened here, because even though Kenneth Branagh, he has some good moments with cinematography.
Yeah, he has a good eye.
I don't know what happened here. I mean, some of the dance scenes, I don't know, maybe it's just dancing. Maybe he is horrible with the how to film dancing. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, because this is just nuts.
The best ways to film dancing. I'm going to give two big examples here.
Okay.
Actually, three. Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain.
Very good.
Is often done in long one shots,
Yes.
so you can see everything. Another great example from around the same period is White Christmas. Go watch any of the dance numbers in White Christmas. They're done as one shot with then later close-ups done.
Yeah,
And then
a
finally,
lot of good cropping and panning.
exactly. And then another fantastic, more modern version is The Muppets from about 10 years ago now already? Has it been 8 years ago? With Jason Segel.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Now, Andrew was just talking about if you have a lot of professional dancers and then have your lead know just enough to look competent, and then they make them look good. They did that, and also to hilarious effect.
Yes.
In the very first big number, everything is great, everything is grand. Everybody is doing this tap portion of it, and Jason Segel's in there, and he's looking competent. And then they do a big tight close-up, about roughly like mine. This is a middle shot on him, and you see him doing all the waist up
Upper
stuff,
body.
and then they cut down to what are obviously somebody else's feet,
I know.
and then cut back up to him, and it's silly, and
Yes.
it works because musicals are silly,
Yes.
or at least they should be.
Yes. The self-disparaging joke usually works. Yeah.
And that would have been fine in this because Love's Labour's Lost is a comedy. And I don't mean just simply comedy because it ends with everybody living, which is a Shakespearean version of comedy. Tragedy, everyone dies. History, you can have all the fun. but rather it is supposed to be a funny comedy. And a lot of it just isn't that great.
No.
But they were making efforts to try to do that. And you could have had Matthew Lillard, especially because his was the most egregious. He was physically going through the numbers. You can see him counting his steps. You can see it on his face. You didn't rehearse enough, or the rehearsal period wasn't long enough, or he just didn't get it. Have him know just enough to be competent, cut away to another dancer, and then have him finish, even with effort. And that would have been fine. It bothered
Kenneth Branagh
me.
should not make musicals. I think that's what we're saying here.
And also, he was so determined to be Barone because Barone has the best lines. And he likes to give himself the best lines. I understand it. He was 15 years, maybe 10 years to be generous, 15 to be more rational. He was 15 years too old. And it looked like a professor hanging out with the kids.
I mean, honestly, I think about him from Much Ado About Nothing. He was too old then to play this role. I mean, that was 8 years before.
This is a role for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, it
Max.
really is.
This is not a role for. This is not a role for a gent about 40, and you can do it with 30-year-olds if everyone's 30, but not everyone was. You have Lillard, who is 30-ish. You have Alicia Silverstone, who's in her early 20s. You have... she was, I think, 23, 24.
Was she?
Yeah.
Huh.
She's a handful of years older than me. And it just didn't work. It did not work. And then, of course, Don Armando's fantastic I Get a Kick Out of You, where he had a Scarface moment.
Yeah.
With the cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
A line when that song is usually done that is cut or rewritten.
True. And it came up. I was kind of like,
no!
oh, they're actually doing this. And then, that was funny. I actually appreciated that.
Funny, but it's in a different movie. It's in a different movie.
It is. I mean, and that actually brings up something else with the music, because they were so determined to try to capture a musical homage to the 30s with the whole Ziegfeld or Busby Berkeley, Irving Berlin, that kind of those kind of musicals, going all up to Rodgers and Hammerstein kind of thing, trying to capture that in various ways, and each bit was sort of a homage to a different movie or musical. And most of them failed the mark horribly.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the 30s musicals, maybe not all, but most, and they didn't get it. They did not even come close to capturing that. I mean, I think the best example of that for me was probably the Busby Berkeley water number, where they all the bathing beauties swimming kind of thing. I mean, the whole point of that was not women swimming, and that's where they missed the mark. It was the scope and the scale constantly expanding and expanding to the end where there was like, I don't know, 50, 100 women, maybe more. You can't even tell. You think, oh my God, were there thousands? I don't know. I mean, it just, with the camera panning back, and then, all this, you're looking at the water, and then something comes out of the water, and it's this huge raised platform. Then there's a raised platform next to that, and a raised platform next to that, and women all around it, and sparklers going, and fireworks going off in the background, and everything going, oh my God! And that was not in the film.
The point is extravaganza.
It is. It is over the top crazy. That was Busby Berkeley. This was not that.
And if you want a good homage to a Busby Berkeley moment, go look at the Inquisition number for History of the World Part 1.
That is a perfect example. History of the
Mel
World Part 1.
Brooks did it right.
Yeah, he did. And, I just don't get it. I mean, we talked a few episodes ago, I think, about, maybe the last episode, I'm not sure, about about the difference between, about musicals, where to make a good musical, what you need to do is you need the story, and then the music helps the story progress.
Yes, it
And
has
a
to
bad
carry it
musical
along.
needs to carry it along. I mean, it needs to progress the story, help the story. A bad musical is when the scenes and dialogue are there just to kind of add a little break in between to get to the music. They
Yeah.
support the music. And this is the latter. I mean, these songs, most of them don't belong in this film. They have nothing to do with it.
No, they
They
don't.
have
It's-
nothing to do with the play. They're
it's
just
the
there
di-
because they're popular and people know them.
It's the difference between Frozen and Frozen 2. Frozen, Frozen,
Awesome.
the songs carry the plot. Frozen 2,
Forced.
the forced. The songs are okay in Frozen 2.
Yeah. Oh,
and Frozen
yeah.
and Frozen 2 raises dramatic stakes. But it's not a good musical. It's
Yeah.
an okay movie. It's not a good musical. And this isn't about Frozen 2. But it's
No.
that same thing.
Yeah. I think that was a problem.
Music has to serve the part of a soliloquy. It raises the emotional stakes. It furthers the plot.
And I think putting it in the whole World War II frame, I don't think that helped the film.
It was
I
cheap.
don't think it had to be, but the way
No.
they did it definitely was cheap. I mean, the whole Casablanca ending kind of thing with the plane and the hangar and the whole, and I'm just kind of like, wow, they even the angle was wow. I mean, that's not a homage. That's something else. That's a cheap ripoff.
It's
Might be a nice way to put it.
And that's what this movie in the end is. It's, to paraphrase The Lord of the Rings, it is a lesser son of greater fathers.
Yes.
This is a cheap knockoff of both Shakespeare and musicals. And
God,
Branagh
even that
had an
seems
idea.
generous to me.
Branagh had an idea which isn't the worst. It's an interesting way to go forward. But Shakespeare already has music in it. The words themselves are often with a musical quality of their own. So
If they'd
just
done
set
original
that
music?
to music, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, use some of the lyrics from Shakespeare, added some more. I mean, that would have been fine with that. Maybe used one of the songs in that list as a homage kind of thing. I would have been okay with that.
You could even filk it of take Shakespeare words
True.
and find period music that would work
Oh,
for it.
totally. I mean, there are great ways to do that, and which has been proven in other films, like the Romeo and Juliet one I just mentioned before with Roxanne, where they changed the whole.
Oh no,
the whole song.
Roxanne's not in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking
That's Moulin Rouge.
Moulin
That's
Rouge.
Moulin
Moulin
Rouge.
Rouge. Blah. Sorry. Another example. Moulin Rouge. That's actually a great example of how to do a movie right, like this, where you include music and you do a homage to an earlier time.
Yes.
I mean, that's actually that was a brilliant way to do it, and it came out around the same time. And look what they did.
Well,
and so yeah, I really.
This movie This movie has failed us on nearly every measure.
Okay, I still insist that I appreciated that they all did their own music, song, and dance. I think that they failed it on the amount of time they spent on it. I would have been, like you said, I think if they'd spent a little more time and weren't counting the beats and counting their feet and while they went and it was obvious, I think if they'd been able to get past that, it would have been a much better. I mean, the thing is, this was from the 2000. At that point in post-production with audio, the things you can do with people's voices, I mean, you can just do a decent performance and make it sound very good. I mean, you don't need perfection.
Let's look at Moulin Rouge, which is only 1 year later.
Also, good point. Yeah. I honestly, I don't know if it was entirely miscast. I mean, you said that you thought it was miscast.
I thought it was very miscast.
I thought it wasn't perfect, but I appreciated a lot of what some of them were doing. I mean, I didn't think they were great, but I didn't think they were horrible. I mean, of course, Nathan Lane I thought was great.
Nathan Lane was wonderful, but
yeah, I mean, I think the age thing was definitely a problem. I thought the chemistry between Branagh and Natasha McElhone was actually surprisingly good, considering.
Yes.
That was actually kind of a moment of wow, okay, that kind of works.
Yeah, her as Rosaline was a discovery.
Yeah,
She was terrific, but her Barone was too freaking old.
yeah,
And I don't
made
need to
it a little
sound
creepy.
ageist, but you need to have people be of like age to each other in situations as that.
Yeah, otherwise you start getting into some creepiness.
You really do.
And I mean, and I'm not just saying that because this was a Harvey Weinstein production.
Oh, I was wondering which of us was going to mention it first.
I wasn't going to, but that just kind of cropped up.
But if it makes you feel any better, this movie is nearly impossible to find, and Harvey Weinstein won't get any of your money from it, number one. And two, it only made $300,000 domestically. So
they're not getting their budget back. You can buy 1,000 copies just to torture friends or enemies, and it's not going to be a problem.
And he will never get that money. So there you go.
Nope, not a bit.
And if you find
actually,
it a bit
I just I figured this movie was just the reason that finally answers an important question. And I think this movie is very important in the history of cinema because it answers this question. Why in the world did Kenneth Branagh do the movie The Wild Wild West the year before? And finally, we have an answer, because all the money he made from that, he could put into this and not worry about it going away. It all makes sense now.
All right, there we go.
Because, I mean, that has been one of the agonizing questions from the 90s for me. Why in the world? I mean, Will Smith, okay. But Kenneth Branagh in The Wild Wild West? I mean, why? Why did he do that? Why?
That is a thing that... Both of these are things that happened. And
I'm thinking, okay, so he thought, I want to do this movie, Love's Labor's Lost, but man, that's a tough sell. If I could just throw in a few million of my own, you want me to do Wild Wild West? How much will you pay me? Okay.
All right.
I think it finally answers that question. So when they lost
Wild
money...
Wild West seriously only the year before this? I thought it was I thought that was mid-90s.
I thought it was the year before. I thought it was like 98, 99.
I am looking this up right now.
Go ahead, take a look.
Wild Wild West was 1999, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So it answers that question finally.
I gotta say, I got those small sunglasses that both Will Smith and Kevin Kline sported throughout the film.
I mean, they had some good stuff in it.
They had style.
It did. That's all it had.
Yeah. It had style and Selma Hayek.
And the actors, what I find interesting is the good actors in this film went on to great things, and the actors who were brought in just because of their star power actually didn't really have much of a career after this.
No.
I mean, Alicia Silverstone, kind of, let's be honest, this was sort of like the last thing she really did of any note.
I would argue otherwise. She's been quite busy.
She has worked a lot, but she hasn't done anything big.
All right.
I mean, she's done a lot of stuff. I just meant of note.
Okay.
I mean, she's done a lot of guest spots, TV stuff, things like that. It's not small movies that nobody's heard of. I mean, that kind of thing.
She was fantastic in Butter.
Okay. I mean, there are a few exceptions, but generally not a huge thing. I mean, her most recent film was what? The remake of Valley Girl. Playing the mom in that. And that was, So I don't know. I really, not so much. And you were talking about Matthew Lillard after that. I mean, he was in Scream and Hackers and She's All That right before this.
Where's My Car?
Yeah, I mean, not really a big thing after he did this. The only thing he's really done of note is he became the new voice for Scooby-Doo in the live action and animated films.
And you know what? I would call that.
I'm sorry, not Scooby-Doo. Shaggy for Shaggy. Scooby-Doo.
Yes, but I will call that a win for him. So
it is a win. I mean, that is an awesome role, but that's all he really has. So that's kind of weird.
But that's all you need. You're the voice.
But then everybody else. I mean, like Emily Mortimer and Adrienne Lester and people like that. They really have done some phenomenal stuff since then. They're now back then they didn't nobody recognized them. Now, all of them. And I do love this little story here. Alessandro Nivola, who played King Ferdinand,
Yes.
met Emily Mortimer in this role. They were not paired up as a couple, but they met, fell in love, and are still married to this day.
Oh, well, there you have it.
So a little behind-the-scenes love that actually works in Hollywood.
There's your Love's Labours 1 right there.
There you go.
There you go. And you know
love
what?
has a victory in this.
This was the most expensive meet cute in history. There you go. And
I like it.
And in the end, isn't that what it's all about? Finding love in all, in this case, the wrong places. But it's fine.
Right.
It's fine. So we have our opinions on this. I want to know what yours are. Let us know in the comments. Also, let us know. Send us emails. Tweet at us. Maybe, I don't know. Facebook, Instagram.
Send us a letter that's confused with another one, and we will we will misinterpret and
we will misinterpret it, and
comedy will ensue.
And then also cut out the scene where there's any repercussions at all. We will do that for you.
Exactly. Oh, I meant to ask. I mean, we talked about the whole how many scenes were cut. Do we even need to talk about that? Like, how much of this is true to Shakespeare?
No.
We don't? Okay. It's just that bad. Okay. I thought so.
The script is by Kenneth Branagh. Shakespeare has very little to do with it, all right?
Yes.
That's all you need to know.
There are some quotes from Shakespeare in the film.
There are quotes of Shakespeare in this.
A few quotes.
Shakespeare was cribbed for this. It's fine. But, Andrew, what are you going to give this?
Oh, I am... Ooh. I'm going to give this a very lost and confused letter. Because I can't even... It is the whole... I know what the author was trying to convey, but it was very lost in translation, and it was sent by the wrong messenger.
Indeed.
So that's I think that was the problem. So I'm not going to say if you like some of the actors in this film, hey, check it out, because some of them are still early in their career, some of them not, but it's still it's kind of wild to see these people do these things. And Nathan Lane is always fun, so if you're a fan, it might be worth a look. But otherwise, oh my God, there are so many better Shakespeare films.
Yeah, there really are. I'll give this a broken tap shoe.
Nothing is sadder than a broken tap shoe.
I don't think this is very good. I think that this could have used some work.
Oh my God.
Well, friends, if you've enjoyed this show half as much as we have enjoyed making it for you, then we've enjoyed it twice as much as you do. And that's called maths. And that being the case, go follow us everywhere. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Go to our YouTube page, like, subscribe, kick that bell. Or maybe it's over there. I have no idea. There's a bell. Go kick it. And then also, if you want to support the show, please go to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/lifesaffair. If you'd like to follow me, your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare, you can follow me on Facebook, Shakespeare Approves, Instagram, Shakespeare.approves, Twitter, Shakes Approves, and on YouTube, Shakespeare Approves. Andrew, where can they find you?
Facebook.com/The Irish Bard and theirishbard.com.
Friends, until next time, the way you wear your hat, the way we kiss till 3. This movie wasn't all that, but you can take that away from me.
Because in this pandemic, we're not cheek to cheek.
No. Toodles.